master of disguise. Zartan changes color right before your eyes. Zartan.
Hey, welcome to Half the Battle, and welcome, my friends, to main character May.
Well, we've looked at the Cobra, Serpentor, and we've looked at the Joe, Duke.
So this time, let's look at a character that's technically neither.
Yes, all of May will be looking at Zartan, the Master of Disguise and leader of the Dreadnoks.
And today, we'll be looking at the action figures.
So to start, meet Zartan version 1. This figure was released in 1984 with all original body parts.
Some really original body parts, but we'll get to that later.
Also, full disclosure, I'm technically showing you this figure with some accessories. Normally, I start by just showing the figure, but that just didn't feel right in this case.
You'll see why soon.
1984 introduced a lot of iconic bad guys in the G.I.Joe line. You had the Baroness, Firefly, freaking Storm Shadow, Scrap Iron, and of course, Zartan. And out of all the 1984 figures, Zartan sure as hell looks the most unique.
In fact, there are so many unique things, I don't know where to start.
I suppose it's best to go from top to bottom. So first, there's his, hair? Okay, for this, I do have to break my rule about talking about the toys first and other media later, because this thing has confused fans for years.
What the hell does he have on his head?
Well, looking at the toy at first glance, you'd be forgiven to think this is a guy with long hair. But if you look at the only other character from 84 with a similar design for hair, the Baroness, you can tell it isn't. Yeah, with the Baroness you can see hair strands molded into her hair sculpt, while Zartan just has folds. So, in this case, it's a cowl. In the box art, well, it's a bit more ambiguous, but it still looks like a cowl there. And in the comic books, it's definitely a cowl, since he takes the bloody thing off on several occasions.
So where does the confusion come from?
The cartoon series, of course, where it's often depicted as just being his hair, but it is a cowl. So, let's move on, because so far we've only discussed the top of his freaking head. Right below the top is the face. And it's another unique one. He's got sorta diamond-shaped black around the eyes. Kinda reminds me of the Ultimate Warrior. Also, his eyes are freaky. They are completely yellow and look like unnatural holes beaming out at you. It's weird, otherworldly, and cool.
Honestly, the eyes are probably my favorite feature of the figure.
Moving down more, he's got a chest piece that A, wouldn't look out of place at an S&M club, and B, is removable. Yeah, this is one of the things I meant when I said I'm showing the figure with some accessories, as the chest piece is one. Well, the front anyway. The back one is part of the torso mold. But the figure just doesn't look right without it on.
There's a reason why it's removable, and we'll get to that soon.
It's got transparent plastic in the middle, for, again, reasons we'll get to, and it's really amazing how well the thing stays on since there's no pegs that slot in. Really, it's just form-fitting. Going further down, he's got some more accessories.
Well, accessories, really.
There's 2 pads on his upper legs. Yojo.com calls them knee pads, but they aren't on his knees, so thigh pads? Anyway, they are removable too, and also have a transparent middle.
Back to the figure itself, it's got some good detailing.
There's the eyes, of course, and the black surrounding them, and his upper arms have a unique pattern. There's also nice little stuff like painted belt loops and heavy boots with a knife molded on one of them. When you remove the breastplate, though, there's one thing missing.
Well, technically 2 things.
He doesn't have nipples! This man is nipple-free. This seems like a strange thing to omit, but the last thing I want to do is keep focusing on Zartan's nipples, or lack thereof, so let's move on.
You see, there's one thing that makes this figure even more unique. It has a gimmick.
If you put this figure out in the sun, his skin will change color to blue. Well, bluish. At the time, anyway. Considering this toy is like 36 years old, the chemical process that allows this has lost much of its power, so the best I could get was a bluish sheen on it. It barely shows up in the photos, but it was there. This is also why he has a boob window, for lack of a better term, in his breastplate. It's so you could have patterns on his skin. There's another reason for the boob window, and for the transparent thigh pads. You see, originally, this figure came with color-changing stickers that were also affected by the sun. Though I don't have them, and I assume they are quite rare and sought after now.
Let me just check and...
Holy crap, $100 for a set?
Yeah, not getting those for this review.
Anyway, now we come to his accessories. Well, a few more of his accessories, I mean. He came with a small laser pistol that looks quite nice and unique. He also had a backpack, one that actually opened up. And inside, there's a human face. Yeah, remember, Zartan is supposed to be a master of disguise, so this is a face mask. Well, let's see the master of disguise in action. Okay, gotta admit, I'm a bit underwhelmed. Yeah, this never worked for me even as a kid. He might have a mask on, Mission Impossible style, but the rest of him still looks like Zartan.
That wouldn't fool a toddler!
Also, apropos of nothing, the face always reminded me of Alex Sector from Mask, which just made it weirder. As a kid, it was better to just have another figure pretend to be Zartan in disguise, because he always had a full disguise in the comics and cartoons. The backpack that reveals the face is very cool though. Anyway, overall, it's a really cool and unique looking figure. A definite must for every collection.
And that's very unfortunate.
Because a mint complete Zartan is a pain in the ass to find. There's his regular accessories, meaning the very small gun, backpack and mask that could be missing.
That would suck, but the figure would still look fine.
But then there's the breast and thigh plates. Losing those just makes the figure look wrong. I've also seen Zartans that have had the cowl ripped off, so even that can be missing. And that's not even getting into the fact he came with a whole freaking vehicle that could have parts missing or just not be there at all. By the way, we won't be looking at the chameleon as I don't have it, and it's more suitable for small vehicle reviews we do in the summertime.
All these different things that come with the figure that can get lost. Oh, I just remembered.
There's the freaking stickers too. Yeah, all that makes Zartan a very tough and expensive figure to get complete in your collection.
And we're not done because there's another major problem with finding a mint condition Zartan. It has to do with his body construction.
For some reason, to accommodate the chemical color changing gimmick, they welded the two halves of his torso together. So even if you took the screw out, the torso wouldn't separate. That means there's no way to replace the O-ring inside the figure if it should break or wear out without damaging the figure itself. So if you do find a Zartan figure, it's gonna have a 36-year-old O-ring in it. So what you really don't want to do is move it too much and put extra strain on it.
'Cause once it goes, it's gone.
So yeah, in conclusion, this is a great figure and a nightmare to find mint and complete.
Zartan did get another figure in the original line, and I can't wait to see what cool new look and gimmicks they came up with. What the fuck?
G.I.Joe will return after these messages.
He's a musical master of disguise. Zartan changes color right before your eyes. Zartan.
Introducing Zartan. Zartan changes color in sunlight.
There's Zartan! He's escaping in the chameleon! Let's go get him! Joe!
But Zartan has a disguise.
Where's Zartan? I don't know any Zartan.
Zartan changes color in sunlight, and Zartan comes with the chameleon. Other figures and equipment each sold separately from Hasbro. Now, back to G.I. Joe.
Okay, I'm feeling better now. Meet Zartan version 2. This figure was released in 1993 with all original body parts.
And yeah, this sure is a thing, isn't it?
I don't think you could get further away from the original design unless you made him an alien or something. At first glance, he looks like a punk biker. At second glance, he looks like what somebody who's never seen a punk biker thinks a punk biker looks like.
Once again, I don't know where to begin.
Let's just start with the head again, shall we? Well, he's got a mohawk, a neon orange mohawk.
Duh.
It's a separate piece of flexible plastic, not part of the head mold, but it is glued in. Still, that does mean that, like with version 1, there's a chance you'll find the top of his head missing if you look for the figure second hand. So at least they have that in common. The second thing they have in common is the face paint, also in orange, but it does stay true to the original in design.
Okay, at this point I may have to walk back what I said earlier. You know, that they couldn't get further away from the original design?
Because the third thing they have in common is the unnatural eyes, though in this case they are white, making me think he's the Avatar or something. Moving on, the leather vest is mostly fine, though I would like to have seen more detail and a different color for the orange chain. Also, I'm not convinced a sleeveless biker vest is the best safety-wise, but it's not like the Dreadnoks have ever been known for responsible biker gear. Then there's the pants.
Oh god, the pants!
Why are they neon green? Why in the name of Cthulhu's nutsack are they neon green? At least the purple on the boots and knife sheaths looks nice, but it's completely overshadowed by the screaming green surrounding it. Yeah, this is not a good color scheme. But honestly, even with better colors, it still wouldn't be a great figure.
Also, this figure is supposed to have a gimmick.
The torso winds up and swings back. Except it doesn't on mine because the mechanism has worn out due to age and use. To accommodate the mechanism, this figure's body construction is different, so it doesn't have an O-ring or a hole in the back.
And why does he have a gimmick? 'Cause he's supposed to be a ninja!
Oh yeah, Zartan, the Master of Disguise, is now also a ninja. This figure was released under the Ninja Force sub-team, though as a bad guy, obviously.
I'll get more into that next time when we talk about the character.
This also meant he came with a bunch of ninja weapons on a tree, in bright orange of course, because this toy hates me personally, so I'm not even gonna talk about them. Well, not right now, anyway. Overall, yeah, I don't like this figure very much.
Obviously.
And those were the only two figures Zartan got in the original line, with the first being the best.
I think I used that snake clip too soon.
This doesn't mean we're done though, as Zartan did get a bunch more figures by Hasbro in later years, so we'll take a look at some of those.
But before we do, we're gonna take a little detour.
All the way from the USA to India, because they also made a Zartan figure there. So meet Fun School Zartan. This figure was released in 2001 with no original body parts. And I have to... Holy crap, that's terrifying! Look at that face! That's not G.I.Joe, that's Night of the Living Dead! Yeah, it's amazing what just a little change in paint applications can do, right?
I'm gonna be seeing that thing in my nightmares!
Anyway, the figure has the same parts as the US version, but it doesn't change color, and the transparent plastic on the chest guard and thigh pads are black. They also come off way more easily than on the US one, especially the thigh pads. What more can I say? If the original looks a bit freaky, this version is the mayor of Freaksville, Florida. Now, I did say this figure was made in 2001.
And that's probably the reason why the first new Zartan figure from Hasbro looks the way it does.
Meet Zartan version 3. This figure was released in 2001 with no original body parts. He was part of the Real American Hero collection line and was packaged with Shadow Viper. Yeah, that's a whole different can of worms I'm not going into now. I think I talked about it during my Astro Viper review. The figure has Zartan's head and Saw Viper's body, and that's probably because this figure was in production at the same time as the Fun School one, and they didn't get the molds parts back from India in time. Well, except for the head.
Imagine Hasbro asking for a whole body and they just send the head back. That's half a horror movie right there.
Anyway, the Saw Viper body is, not ideal. The chest very vaguely resembles the original, I suppose, but making the top flesh-colored was a mistake, because you can clearly see the collar that's now made of human flesh. By the way, Joe says this is the original head, but it's ball-jointed now, while the first one just swiveled left and right, and the face looks a bit bigger, so it wouldn't surprise me if this was a new mold based on the original. Overall, the figure isn't great, but I can see what they were going for. A sort of homage to the original.
Up next, we head into the G.I.Joe vs. Cobra line.
So meet Zartan version 4. This figure was released in 2002 with all original body parts. He came in a 2-pack with Scarlet. And it's a different but still familiar take on the character. And the first thing that I noticed was the plunging neckline. It's so freaking plunging that anymore and they'd have to censor the figure. Also, damn, dude has gotten buff. Not counting Punk Zartan, this is the first time they've tried a new color scheme for the character, red and black, plus some metallic sheen and grey. It's okay, I suppose. One interesting thing is that this figure has extra articulation at the wrists, so this is the first Zartan figure that could properly steer a motorcycle.
If he had one.
Another interesting thing is that the cowl is removable. Removing it makes him look like he's a member of the Legion of Doom though. It being removable also means there's a chance it's missing if you try to find a second-hand figure.
Yeah, Zartan is turning into the grand champion of incomplete toys.
One thing I dislike is the Cobra logo on his leg. I mean, he's always been a mercenary, not a proper member of Cobra. Also, I'm not wild about the red color. Overall, it's just an okay figure. This toy was recolored the very same year, and Zartan version 5 came with a Stalker figure. And it's a definite improvement over version 4. The color scheme, dark red, green and black, conjures up thoughts of a swamp, his natural habitat. And he's put on a damn shirt to cover up the plunging neckline. Also, he still has a stripe on his leg, but the Cobra symbol is gone.
As it should be.
They did make another version in the Spy Troops line that used his original color scheme more, but I don't have that one. From looking on eBay, I can say good colors, but the neckline is back, so that's a drawback. He did come with extra heads to disguise himself as Duke or Flint, so that's nice.
There's one unfortunate thing the last 3 toys have in common.
They all have regular eyes.
That's practically sacrilege!
Having freaky eyes was part of his thing. Even Fun School realized that, though I wish they hadn't. But this was disappointing on the new figures.
Moving on, there's just 2 more figures that I own that I can talk about, and they have the modern body construction.
First, there was the 2009 Rise of Cobra movie figure. He's dressed as a generic G.I.Joe trooper since he's in disguise like in the movie. They did a good job capturing the likeness of Arnold Vosloo, the actor playing him who's probably most famous for playing the mummy in the Good Mummy movie from 1999. This figure can also double as an army builder since he came with a different head to complete the disguise as a green shirt. Well, in the movie's case, a blue shirt. The Zartan head has a faint grey version of the eye paint, which is a nice touch, but hardly necessary.
Lastly, we'll look at the 2015 50th anniversary figure.
Because I want to give you an example of the modern style figure take on the original character. This toy came in a set with Hit and Run and Torpedo. And yeah, they did alright. The essence of the character certainly is there. Like some of the modern figures though, it can be a pain in the ass to keep the thing standing up, so a figure stand is recommended. The most important thing though, the freaky eyes are back.
Yes!
I don't really have anything more to say about this figure. It's adequate. And those were the toys.
Well, the ones I have anyway.
There are some modern ones I lack, and some convention or club exclusives, like a fully transparent one, but I can only really talk about what I can have in front of me. Out of all of them, they never really topped the first and best, the good old 1984 one. And while I may grumble about how difficult it is to get a mint complete one, with all the bits that can be missing, or a figure so often showing wear and tear, we have to remember that this was never intended to be a product displayed on a shelf almost 40 years later. This was a toy for kids, and it had a metric ton of play value packed in, so kudos to Hasbro for making a great toy.
And that wraps it up. Next time we'll be taking a look at the character, starting with the file cards. Oh boy.
He's an evil master of disguise. Zartan changes color right before your eyes. Zartan.
Introducing Zartan. Zartan changes color in sunlight.
There's Zartan! He's escaping in the chameleon! Let's go get him! Yo, Joe!
My neighbors are gonna love that one.